doesn't work that way because Nigeria is a complex
Mr.
society.
President in Fiso Konsha, where a lot of Nigerians, the hopes of Nigerians are hanging on him.
Well,
Because we have suffered for too
I am
long.
not in his mind, so I can't say if he feels that way or not. But
from his body language,
we can't even,
from his utterances.
You know, the idea of body language started with Buhari. You know, he would not talk, so we'll just say we are reading the president's body language. In the case of Tinubu, I don't think we've seen a lot of body language expressions. He doesn't give off anything really, except maybe you look into his expressions, like what we saw, the address he gave when the protest started, and then we could pick from those statements that this man doesn't care much about what protesters are saying. He's hell-bent. But if we read the body language, the so-called body language that we are talking about, then it would mean that the president is giving the vibe of I don't care. Mi ò rán yín, nǹkan tó wà lọ́kàn mi ni màá ṣe. And that is why a lot of us have said this student loan policy kò ní ṣiṣẹ́ o. Loss lẹ́ fi gbà o.
How well will stage 2 paying 70,000 naira?
I think
will Seyi Makinde pay 70,000 naira?
No, I don't know if Seyi will pay 70,000 naira. Seyi, that I hope you know that health workers recently went on strike, you know, for roughly 2-3 weeks before Seyi answered them. That was the same governor that during first time, there was no worker that could go on strike for more than a week. He will run and say, don't worry, I'll settle what you want. I hope you know that Seyi, in a very long time, has not employed new workers in Oyo State. We are hearing statements like those who want to take advantage of the protest. And we also may be àwọn òrò jẹjẹ.
Wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ bí ọ̀rọ̀ epo àwọn á di 200 á di 5. Ẹ fọkàn balẹ̀, a máa gbé wálẹ̀.
Will Dapo Abiodun pay? Because I've always heard complaints about Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State.
Governor Dapo Abiodun.
Mo kí ẹ̀yin wa ẹ kú dédé àsìkò yìí, ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí troubleshot. Alright, Lenny, bí ní àsìkò tá à ń ka program sílẹ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́, àwọn kan wọ́n ń sun ẹkún àsunrìn, àwọn kan ń sun ẹkún àsunsínú. Ṣé ló dàbí ẹni wípé àwọn torí tí wọ́n ni wọ́n ṣe gbé owó epo lọ sókè. And I can tell you that this is not the best of times in Nigeria lásìkò yìí. Na mo ní òǹwé àwùjọ àti alátòpalẹ̀ ìròyìn tí ó jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi 1, number 2 àjọ ń ṣiṣẹ́ níbi kan náà ó ní bí a ká sọ pé igbákejì mi 1 kádẹ̀ tún pè ní ọ̀gá ní ẹ̀ka ìròyìn ní Adamimogo FM Nigeria. Sam Olugbeminiyi wà pẹ̀lú mi bí Sam.
My GM. Abi Dele Adeyoju.
Agba. Just Agba.
Just Agba. Good to be here.
Yeah.
It's indeed good to. I don't think àti ṣe nǹkan tó jọmọ́ ilé ìdájí ṣe. Yes, nígbà tá a ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní 2022. It's good to be back here. Right. Times have changed. Things still change.
Improvement to
across board, but even in Nigeria too.
Ṣé ti Nigeria ṣe improvement ni?
Improvement ni.
How ló ṣe improvement?
As at ìgbà yẹn 194 naira là ń ra epo.
As at maybe November, December 20.
Yes, 2022.
2022, yeah.
As at this moment, ó ti di 865 ní Ìbàdàn.
Well, tí ẹ̀ wọ́n máa ra 865 yẹn, a pẹ̀lú requeue. Èyí tí mi rà láàárọ̀ yìí, mo ra 1,100. Mo dẹ̀ ń sọ fún yàn pé 1,001 mo ra. Ó ní àwọn cheap lọ́dọ̀ yín o. Pé lọ́dọ̀ àwọn ní ẹgbẹ́ dá 1,300.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni,
ní 1 litre.
Ó lè má jẹ́ improvement fún àwọn ọmọ Nàìjíríà. But fún àwọn tó ń ta epo náà, wọ́n ṣì ń èrè ò dínkù fún wọn. Wọ́n ṣì ń make profit lórí ẹ̀. Ó lè wà a little bit difficult, you know, to assuage the needs of a lot of people, but they are still making profit. So it's improvement for them.
Ṣé kò ń ṣe nǹkan tó ń rà náà tán?
But government lè sọ pé àwọn ò sọ subsidy fún wọn, but wọn lè sọ pé àwọn ń ta at a loss. Wọn lè sọ the margin of profit. More margin of profit tó wà ń gbà tó ń ta ní 190 something naira. Time tó dẹ̀ ń ta ní 800 and in some places and 1,000 in some places. margin of profit is still the same. Wọn ò dínkù. Competitiveness ló wà. Never will. Yes, some people would sell at 700. Àwọn tó ń tà ní àwọn tó ń tà 900. Wọn ò lose o. Margin of profit tó fi pé àwọn wà comfortable pẹ̀lú náà ń tà. And tó ń tà ní 1,000 naira, not the same thing. And the truth is, stage tí a dé Nigeria by kò sẹ́nibody tó máa sọ wípé òun lè live without epo. A lọ bíṣẹ́. Tí ò bá lọ bíṣẹ́, a lọ church. A lọ mosque. A ṣàṣọ pé òun fẹ́ jáde. Ẹni tí ò bá ní solar ńlẹ̀, ó pẹ́ títí tó bá fún ná, a lóun fẹ́ tàn jẹ́. So kò sí, a lo epo. So everybody would make their profit in the long run.
All right. Now, ní 2022 tí a ti mọ̀rọ̀ yẹn, ìwọ ló rán mi létí pé 190.
Yes, like 196
ní epo.
Nígbà yẹn, yes.
Now, the expectation everybody ni pé tí change of government bá wá, tí Tinubu bá bọ́ síbẹ̀, ìdí ara máa dé, ara máa tu ara lù. But láti gbà yẹn ní ìsìn, ṣe ló ń le sí, ó ń nira sí, bí epo ṣe wọ́n sí, ni oúnjẹ wọ́n sí, ni service náà ń gbówó lórí. Àwa tá tó tẹ̀ jẹ́ pé àwọn service kan wà tó jẹ́ pé à ń render, a lè gbówó lé nítorí pé àwọn clients àti àwọn customers máa sá lọ.
Mi ò sí class àwọn èèyàn tó believe pé tí Tinubu bá dé, things will become better. I have never been in that school of thought, and I'm very sure you would attest to it. That I was one of the few people who said Buhari did a lot of damage. By the time he came back, second term, first time he was sick for a very long time, and then at some point he said, it's because it's his first time. He's trying to play the game so that Ali Wale for second time. But second time, he will fight corruption, he will do this. But what happened is she Wale second time, ó wá gbé wá sí autopilot. Ó fẹ́ jọba ní pé ńgbà tí Abba Kyari tó jẹ́ chief of staff ẹ̀gọ́ngbà yẹn tó lọ, it now became everybody do as you like. And so we saw the picture. It was clear. The writing was on the wall. Wípé a lot of money would be or had been stolen under Buhari. Money that should have been used to deal with certain things. We also needed to admit that Nigeria did not have the financial capacity anymore to continue to pay subsidies. And that's why his Minister of Finance at the time, Minister of State for Petroleum at the time, including some of the special advisors, came and said, we are removing subsidy. And 3 months, no, I think it was a month later, I think it was January 2022, they started pushing the idea of we are removing subsidy everywhere. And I remember that Buhari had a chit-chat, Rise, just before the elections at the time. I said, no, I'm not going to remove subsidy, only because if I do so, my government will become unpopular. It made it very clear that the ministers can say what they like because they feel that we are broke. But I, as president, will continue to find a way to continue to pay subsidies. It must not be so high to the extent that people will no longer be able to afford it or will suffer greater consequences. And so we knew that, if this man is doing this and finding a way to get money to pay, somebody is going to pay the debt. That's the reality. Somebody will have to clean up that mess. And we knew that, when Tinubu comes in, he's going to make it, he's going to try as much as possible to maybe do a couple of things that will make things initially hard. Because in cleaning up a mess, people who are so used to that mess, it will take some time for them to adapt to cleanliness. So we knew it was going to take some time. But we have now gotten to a stage that water don't pass Gary. Nobody expected that today we'll be buying fuel at above 500 naira. There were those who thought that by your subsidy, 500 naira per litre no maje. Kosentoro ipo 1,000.
They become over 1,000.
Yes. Nearly. Kosentoro wípé inflation time experienced by would be the worst in 26 years. We just felt, it can't be so bad. But it's now so bad. And the truth is, let me not say the truth because I'm not in that system. Nǹkan táwa náà fetí kọ́, táwa fetí àwọn tó wà níbẹ̀ táwa bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ is it appears that even Tinubu himself underestimated the situation. And I think so. Because Odelala Koko, Baba Gogo fúnra wọn sọ, his advisors, Ajuri Dele Alake, told him not to talk about subsidy in his inaugural address. But he said he just felt, no, we must talk about it. I said, oh, first subsidy has come to an end.
So with that statement, it's
Barely. Because he didn't have time to go back and check the books. And even till date, government has not done anything to answer the question marks on fuel subsidy and some of the other issues around the fuel sector. I will take you back to a statement made by Emir Sanusi of Kano, 14th Emir. He said, see, we must get the receipts. What is the volume of petrol tan kowole tan so subsidy for? What is the volume tan consume on a daily basis? Up till date, the question, last month, August, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, said, gentlemen, we don't know the volume that we consume or that we pay. So, although we just know we are spending $600 million to bring in fuel on a monthly basis. So you see that the questions have not been answered. We are still battling with the same problems. The question mark is now, is Mr. President willing and ready to answer those questions? Or is it that Mr. President already knows the answer to those questions, but because of a vested interest, has now decided, I will not answer. Let us see what is going to happen.
Sam,
What's the worst that will happen?
Let me ask this. In your opinion, do you think Mr. President was actually ready for these challenges, or he just wanted to become president? Nítorí pé nínú a viral video tí wọ́n ṣe ní Ogun State, Imilokan. Ṣé nítorí pé ó kan Mr. President ni, or it was because you said something just now pé kò tí ráyè yẹ àwọn tí ráyè yẹ ìwé wò láti mọ kí nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀. So because I've always been an advocate of, if anybody is coming in to take over any position, kọ́kọ́ mọ nǹkan tó wà ń bẹ̀ náà before kó tó máa sọ pé nǹkan báyìí ni màá ṣe.
Indeed, ọ̀nà méjì náà ló pín sí, but I think the most obvious fact is Mr. President was interested in being called Mr. President. Everybody has known as far back as 2007, Tinubu had positioned himself to be a president at some point. Yes, there was Buhari. The moment, at the point of that alliance, AD, CNPP, ANPP, CPC, we knew that there was an alliance, and we knew that at some point, Tinubu wanted to either be VP, but more importantly, president. The same way a lot of people right now are beginning to feel that Wike is hell-bent on becoming president of this country at some point, at any point in time. And I think that that's dominated the thoughts of Mr. President. He may have had ideas of things he wanted to do, such as the student loan policy. We know that he's been shouting about that student loan policy since 2011. We know that he's been talking about removal of fuel subsidy since 2019. We know that he's been saying a couple of other things. But I think he just felt, I'll get in there and do these things, and underestimated the problem because he was more focused on becoming Mr. President. And now he's Mr. President. But to be Mr. President is one thing. What will history say about you? Which is one thing that made Awolowo a little bit more meticulous than any other leader that has come after him. Yes, he wanted to be leader of this country, but he was able to pay better attention to detail. What people were saying, what needed to be done, what the problems were. If you don't understand the problems, you can't give us a solution. Also, I think that Mr. President was also interested in the fact that being the president of Nigeria makes you the most powerful person in the country. You have the power of life and death. Even a governor, if you attempt, and I'm not talking of somebody like Buhari, who some governors were, but even when governors ganged up against Buhari, especially when they wanted to pick who should be chairman of APC, where the Oshobola was leaving, and then they had to bring in the governor of Yobe, and then they wanted to bring in somebody else outside of the governor of Yobe, Maimela Buni. at some point, governors had their own choice, but Mr. President obviously told them, I want Abdullahi, that's the former chairman. And he got his way overnight. So you know that, this man, whoever is president, is the most powerful person. And there's nobody. This author that wrote this book, The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli, said power intoxicates to a level where it is sweeter than the sweetest sex in the world. So I think the thrill of, let me be Mr. President, let me have the power of life and death, over trading to Mr. President. And he felt, well, when I get there, I can then decide what is going to happen to Nigeria. But it doesn't work that way because Nigeria is a complex
Mr.
society.
President, in Fiso Konshak, where a lot of Nigerians, the hopes of Nigerians are hanging on him.
Well,
Because we have suffered for too
I am
long.
not in his mind, so I can't say if he feels that way or not. But
from his body language,
we can't even,
from his utterances.
You know, the idea of body language started with Buhari. You know, he would not talk, so we'll just say we are reading the president's body language. In the case of Tinubu, I don't think we've seen a lot of body language expressions. He doesn't give off anything really, except maybe you look into his expressions, like what we saw, the address he gave when the protest started, and then we could pick from those statements that this man doesn't care much about what protesters are saying. He's hell-bent. But if we read the body language, the so-called body language that we are talking about, then it would mean that the president is giving the vibe of, I don't care. Mi ò rán yín, nǹkan tó wà lọ́kàn mi ni màá ṣe. And that is why a lot of us have said, this student loan policy kò ní ṣiṣẹ́ o. Loss lẹ́ fi gbà o.
Chosen job, right?
Tí ò bá máa jọ bẹ́ẹ̀ báyìí, in another 5 years, I'll jọ bẹ́ẹ̀ because it's not sustainable. Even in countries where you have better accountability, like the US, they are writing off student loans because people can't pay back. How much more Nigeria, where the unemployment rates, I'm not talking about the figures of the NBS. In reality, we know that unemployment rate is very high in this country. So how people pay back? And then you're increasing school fees. There is a tendency in University of Ibadan, they protested some few days ago. There is a tendency that a lot of more people will drop out of school than enroll in school. And that's the money for student loan cannot cater to everybody. Now we have over 1 million people that write JAM on a yearly basis. Over 1 million people. Do we have enough funds to cater to over 1 million people on an annual basis? So, but because it feels, it's my idea, that's what I want to do. That's what I feel works in other countries. That is what I want to do. And so that vibe doesn't give the best of hope, doesn't give the idea of a renewed hope for any Nigerian, because what everybody is seeing, ani ya nje àwọn Nigeria, àwọn òróró ọjọ́ kan oúnjẹ ọjọ́ kan jẹ. People are eating just once in a day, and the next thing, pump prices going up, and the president has not said anything. And he is the Minister of Petroleum.
Is it about what he's going to say or what his actions will be?
Oh, but he should be able to match what we must hold him accountable. He said during his campaign, at some point, and that is why a lot of us asked questions. We said, we saw Baba's manifesto, the APC the Renewed Hope manifesto, and we said there was no timeline in this thing. So how do we even hold somebody accountable? If he said in 1 year, I am going to reduce the price of petrol to 200 naira. We would hold him and say, you said in 1 year. So if in 1 year you don't reduce but now we have to wait on 2027 before we hold him responsible for that. He made so many promises that were generic and not specific.
Sam,
yes.
Before now, before 99 rather, cost of telecommunications so high.
Yes.
But now MTN day. Initially, Okoko lost okay. Later, more affordable, at least to an extent.
A bit.
Now, Dangote Refinery today, at the long run, maybe in the next 3 years, is it likely that we buy fuel for 100 naira or 150 naira per litre?
I don't think that is possible. I've always said it that, even on a personal level, I've told you that we are conferring on Dangote the status of a messiah that he is not and will not be. One is that he's a businessman. the Dangote refinery is not solely Dangote's business. He has other investors. He borrowed money not just from Nigeria but from other international creditors. He put in a large chunk of his own money that he needs to make back. He's no longer the richest man in Africa because of, having to put in so much money. And so he would definitely want to make that back. International crude goes for slightly 95 and above in terms of dollars per barrel. Are you saying that you are going to sell or is going to acquire crude at a price that is different from what is being sold at the international level? No, that's not possible. Yes, the president has said sell to him in naira. But the question is he going to pay the exact value of the dollar value in naira, or are they going to reduce it? Already, if they sell to him in naira, it means that Nigeria is going to lose much needed foreign exchange that the government needs to continue to run government and do so many other things. The other part is if they now say, okay, we are going to reduce, you are not going to pay the exact value, we will reduce, which is give you a form of subsidy. It means that subsidy has returned. Some people will say it would make the game more competitive, at some point. But this is my prediction. I think that in another 2 years, if not less, we will come to a stage in which the NNPC is going to say that Dangote, even though he has the biggest refinery in, single train refinery in the world, that Dangote cannot meet the needs of Nigeria, of Nigerians. I will say, you know what? Let's slash what we sell to Dangote. Dangote just supply half to Nigeria. We would import the rest. Why? Because there are some people who have vested interest in these things. A lot of selfish interest. The oil business itself. I remember that the last interview I had with Bababode George, I said, so is there a cabal in the oil business that is even too difficult for the president to perhaps disarm? And he didn't want to answer that question.
He didn't want to.
Yes, obviously, I asked several ways, but he used, his elderly this thing to dispel and say, no, can anybody be more powerful than the president? And I said, if the president cannot disarm them, then it means that the president must have struck a deal with them. And in that manner, we can see the drama that happened with Dangote and the NNPC. It took the presidential intervention. When you say sell to Dangote, sell crude to Dangote, and sell to him in naira. If not, it didn't look like NNPC were willing to sell. So if they're not willing to sell,
who made NNPC that powerful? NNPCL now.
Yes, NNPCL. No, it's always the structure, the system, a group of oil business magnates, and same thing too with political figures. These people are some of the people who either help to siphon money on behalf of political figures, are some of the people who donate money to people and say, don't worry, we'll help you become president. If you want to become president, we'll give you all the money that you need to become president. Just ensure that you protect our interest. As at today, we don't even know the exact identity of people who own oil fields, oil wells in Nigeria.
Yes.
Always been the same for a very long time. Let's look at, I think the only time we had some bit of sanity was between the 70s when we discovered oil and the first two refineries were built. And I think from 85, it has always, people saw, there was not even 70, from 75, we started seeing, there's a lot of money here. And then the greed, how can we subvert the system in a way in which we can make more money for ourselves, and a lot of other people will continue to suffer. And that is why we reject gbogbo refinery tí wọ́n ní àgbà ò lè wà lọ́jà kúrò ọmọ tuntun wọ́, gbogbo orí refinery gbogbo ẹ̀ wá wọ́ sí àsìkò bákan náà, and we are not doing anything about it.
I want to engineer refineries, one shilling by salary law, just like they're working.
Let me say that between 2000 and 2010, we spent about $1.5 billion or slightly more on turnaround maintenance. Between 2010 and 2022, we spent roughly another $10 billion. In fact, let's say in naira, so that people over 11 trillion naira
on a refinery that
on turnaround maintenance that has not given us results. So
that's a waste.
Complete waste. 11 trillion. In a proper society or a society that works, you should query some people. You should say come. How did we spend this money?
Make heads roll.
Yes. But we are not doing that. Some people like to praise Yar'Adua as the best president ever. But I say, thank God. Well, we shouldn't thank God anyway. But Benny, yes. Because that was a mistake. Obasanjo looked at it and said, these refineries, the best we can get from them is $100 million. They're about Dangote, go and bring your investors, and he sold. And because of small pressure, Yar'Adua decided to return the monies, and you know the funny thing after it is, after returning the money to them, he then gave Abubakar Yar'Adua, who was the NNPC GMD at the time, they gave the Constitutional Committee and took another, I think, roughly $5 billion for turnaround maintenance. Till Yar'Adua died, nothing happened. The refineries were operating at below 30% capacity, not churning out real fuel. Jonathan came, put in another huge amount of money. When Timothy Silva was there, I remember he said, by March 2022, he said, Port Harcourt refineries will start working. Everybody said, finally. Because every president has promised. But they put in money and they failed. And nobody's asking questions. What is the problem? Where is this money going into? So, it's a multifaceted problem because they are on your look back contract here. Okay, if as a minister you are awarding a contract and it's not working, how come the president is not asking? Timmy pray. Are you sure we are not delivering? Why are we not delivering? Why is the EFCC today not probing or doing an audit of what has been spent on refineries so far and where those monies went to? Let me say that Yar'Adua, who got a large chunk of that money for turnaround maintenance, I remember that when the Panama paper thing happened, his name was included, having secret properties in other places, outside of Nigeria. But nobody has said anything about it. We are not saying that he's not wealthy enough. But we're saying for you to have a secret property, something that is not open it means that the source of it may be legitimate.
But shouldn't we ask questions? Kabirikpe, why did Obasanjo wait till the tail end of his 8-year tenure before why didn't he do that before the end of the first time?
That's another politicking that I don't want to talk about. Not that I don't want to talk, but I wouldn't say I don't know why.
Perhaps he felt that he was going to get a third time.
Possibly.
Though Baba has not said that.
But don't forget that he also did trial and error. I think after the first chunk of money that he also dropped for maintenance, he realized that, see, gentlemen, we'll keep wasting money. Let's this thing just, go. And either way, either he waited till the end or not, Yar'Adua had no business trying to, send it by. It was a breach of contract. People bought something for you, started work on it, and then you then send. It is a similar situation that we've seen with these Chinese firms. Almost a similar, because, they already bought it. They can decide that they are not taking their money back and decide that they've started work on it. And that's why the same amount of money that Dangote used to build is a whole new one. Is the same amount of money we've also lost trying to fix refineries. That's the bigger picture that we should be looking at and asking, why have we not dealt with this problem? And it's a bigger picture of the corruption in the entire system itself.
So can it pay Buhari really mean business?
Yes.
Maybe he should have even started from the oil sector, from
Indeed,
NNPC itself.
Buhari ò tiẹ̀ kò show interest at all. Tí bá sọ àwọn èèyàn máa ní no, Buhari is a tough person. I was not alive when Buhari was born anyway, but the stories we heard, it was very difficult for a lot of us not to know that. Yes, we knew that Buhari was a bit of a principled person, but I also think that he was a proud person. But Idiagbo knew what he wanted. If they felt, well, let's do. Idiagbo helped to do his bidding. Anyway. But I think in this era, wow, things are not the same. At first, we saw the onslaught on judges. And I just were shouting and saying, no, you don't run things this way. Even though we eventually realized that some of those judges should have been queried. But that was not the way to go. But after his first term, I think he just felt, I can't kill myself because of these people, because he saw that this thing was way more.
Or maybe ori nkan gba tó no débẹ̀ tán. Ori nkan tí ojú orí tí ẹnu ò gbọ́dọ̀ sọ.
Ó náà ni. Téèyàn bá sick, ẹni tí àìsàn ò ṣe tẹ́lẹ̀, tó sick fún oṣù 6, tó bá dé á máa tẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́. Normal ni wọ́n ti fún warning ni. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni pé èèyàn ń gbá game of cards, ní last card, tó bá aṣọ rẹ̀ check up ni ó jẹ́ o. So I think at that point he decided that let me just let things slide. I let a lot of things. And that's why, because the Tinubu administration has not unveiled the extent of corruption under Buhari. Firifiri láṣìngbọ́tọ́ ní èèyàn kan kó 80 billion jẹ. Minister kan ó award the contract almost 100 billion fábùrẹ̀. We've not seen other things so. Okay, yes, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs kan tán ní ó kó billions of naira funds jẹ. It shows that he was not in control.
Ṣé kò ń ṣe minister yẹn ni wọ́n padà gbé trader money àti gbogbo nǹkan sí lábẹ́?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, humanitarian affairs. Yes, ibẹ̀ ni wọ́n gbé trader money sí. Tó ní tí àwọn N-Power náà tó ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní problems with payment. Kó tó wá kan better edu. Kó tó rẹ̀ pé bó ṣe investigate yẹn tó kúrò. Before, I think that woman, I've forgotten her name now, was the one who married the former chief of air staff who contested under APC to be governor of Kebbi State, but lost. So it was obvious that everybody was allowed to do as they liked, and there was no such thing as anti-corruption Caesar under the Buhari administration.
Buhari came and contested with the mantra "Say no to corruption, anti-corruption, and all that." So,
but I think that maybe we should then focus now on corruption, have a proper conversation about corruption. And I think that it takes more than one madman to fight corruption in Nigeria.
More than one?
Yes. Because we have elevated money to a level in which no matter how hardworking you are, if you don't have it, you are nobody in the society. There's a governor, governor of one of these southwest states, Tiwani Wogba. And, everybody started saying, Kosin Kalawema, the former governor, broke. And we started mocking him. If that sort of person, let's say, was not involved in any form of corruption, we should be proud of him and not mock him for being broke. That's the reality. We should say, this person came, did well, did his bits. Yes, he may not be wealthy. Yes, there's another governor, that came, in a controversial manner. And he said, Ko Jiowori, Igbe was a very clean man. I had some people who were mocking and they ran. And they started abusing him. That same person tried to contest but never won elections thereafter. Again, that tells you that we have a societal problem. And that's why I think that it will take more than one madman to fix this issue. We can't fight it completely, but we can fight it to a standstill. But because we have elevated money to a very high level, it's now a question of how can we then demonetize the system, the structure? How can we make people feel, comfortable in their own skin? If they don't feel that if we don't make 100 million naira in our account, we won't be seen as foolish people. Because there are people who don't have so much money, but they are fine. But not in Nigeria. So, as long as we continue to have those things, we will always have this issue of corruption. It will always be a major issue. It would always be a major issue. And what fuels corruption is greed. Greed is now a major thing. You see pastors themselves now, clerics, who brag about having private jets as if, no, that's the standard. You brag, you see them, they fill up an entire, and they brag about it as if that's the standard because of the money.
Heaven is no longer the goal.
Oh, it's the business.
It's the business.
So when all of that is at play, you're going to realize that.
So by the time we have such problems, see, thanks on corruption.
Ben.
Time when you glorify owó.
Ben.
Tá de lè pe àwọn clerics pe bá fi ọ̀rọ̀ Ọlọ́run bọ́ àwọn èèyàn.
Ṣé clerics gangan, clerics mélòó at this day and time ló ń sọ̀rọ̀ against them? How many of them can comfortably go to the pulpit and for Christ's sake, we know people who talk about, oh, this person is stole 1 billion naira. Tó bá ti kọ́ church, àwọn kan ló máa jókòó síbẹ̀ tó máa gbàdúrà fún mi pé, hey, Ọlọ́run má jẹ́ kó lọ sẹ́wọ̀n. That's the problem.
Kò burú tó báyìí before 99. Because I always say that when I started this job in, I think around 2001 or thereabout, àwọn preachings tá máa ń gbọ́ ngbà yẹn, mo ṣe rántí àwọn preachers tá máa ń gbọ́ ní orí rédíò tó máa ń mú tape wọn wá tá wọ́n á record. Ẹ máa gbọ́ ìwọ kò gbọ́dọ̀ pànìyàn, ìwọ kò gbọ́dọ̀ ṣàgbèrè, ìwọ kò gbọ́dọ̀ rojọ́ ọmọ ẹnìkejì, wọ́n á tún fi Bible verse, but lẹ́ni it's the direct opposite.
Ben, because of poverty. That's one.
So that means the rate of poverty has gone so high.
Oh, it has.
So a lot of clerics are now jumping on that situation.
Lack of comfort. Let's look at the basic things. That what makes you comfortable. One, if you have a house of your own, you're not paying rent, or the landlord is not increasing rent, in an absurd manner, you're fine. You can take yourself to work, fine. Food is affordable for you on a daily basis. Oh, you're fine. There's nothing else. But when democracy started, we resumed in 1999. Obasanjo did a bit, increased the minimum wage of a lot of people. I have lecturers that you must not say anything bad about Obasanjo. They will tell you Obasanjo opened the way for us and a lot of workers. Yes, just the same. Opel was, everywhere at the time. And so after that time, it was not a struggle to continue to match up because inflation started happening. This same thing too, back to fuel, because oil drives everything. We started increasing the price of fuel, inflation was going up, and then people realized that we need more money to survive. Are we going to be able to make that money legitimately? Some of them felt, oh yes, but a lot of people felt, oh, we can't. So then you had more people going into theft. From theft, you had more people going into kidnapping. You had more people going into politics. Some use politics to clean their money. And then you had so many people doing too. And then you now have Yahoo boys, cyber criminals. And now it has gone so bad now. Like poverty has pushed parents to the level in which they will now say, wow, a 14-year-old boy should not be bearing any responsibility. Parents ló yẹ kó máa tọ́jú ẹ̀. But I don't know about wow. Ọ̀rẹ́ mi tó wà ní kinní kan, ọmọ ẹ̀ just 13 years old, ó ti cash out $100,000. Máa mú ẹ lọ sọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀ wá lọ kọ́ṣẹ́ ń bẹ̀.
Nígbà tí
oh yes,
2007, I was in Lagos. Briefly, ó ní àwọn family kan tí mo scott lọ́dọ̀ wọn gbà yẹn. Ẹnu tó máa ti ń ṣe morning devotion láàárọ̀.
Yes.
Ibẹ̀ ni mo ti gbọ́ prayer, God Almighty, this Yahoo business, this lágbájá ìkan lára àwọn ọmọ is doing. Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kó máa rí ṣe. This Yahoo business.
You can imagine.
From a parent, from a mother.
Yes. It's so bad that I remember I stayed in Ekiti for a while, and at some point I was scared because you see SS1 boys, GSS3 boys who are holding phones that I will not dare to buy, who are building houses that their parents are living in, and their parents are not asking questions. So, because they are desperate to escape that poverty. But where do they end up? This afternoon, Mojimbo, movie story lady Funab was kidnapped around Yaba, and the parents were told to pay ransom. Well, there is some ransom. Eventually, the police then discovered that it was one of our friends. We can't even call him the boyfriend, but one of the friends who kidnapped her. And this guy has been spending money, tweeting anyhow, living a flashy lifestyle. We discovered that he buried that girl in his parents' compound. Would you tell me that the parents were not fully? We don't know. We then realized that his girlfriend died 2 years ago, and now they are linking it to him because it's a similar circumstance. His sister died 4 years ago.
His own sister?
Yes, they are linking it to a similar circumstance. And I learned the guy is not even up to 20. And he has 3 mothers linked to him. For Christ's sake. It means that something is wrong. If I remember that anytime I go and then maybe I'm spending, yes, I want to manage you, daddy wag my taba file kawan school. Yes, I won't forget one instance. There was an instance in which I had stolen my dad's money. And you know what they did? The moment they realized that it was Ibolo, and I confessed my sins, they made sure that I slept out. Right? I said, let that be your lesson. You see, this code that I've dealt with you overnight is a reminder that you must not be engaged.
That makes me remember. More nothing but one. I think just one. Uncle being below one by.
Yeah.
Me, my better not 2029 to 20. Toma hide the smart one you are. I am what Malomu. Smart I cannot live in for water. Pop at the bones. I used to love Popov. Only one man for territory to see. Smart why this school mama Popov phone. Our colleagues me. Just one no.
Yes.
O kan di ọjọ́ kan we are morale ni morale but o ma di ọjọ́ kẹta. A particular guy mi ò rántí si ma rí mi ò dá mọ̀ mọ̀ mo rántí orúkọ ẹ̀ Dayo Adéwùmí. Ó wá bá mi. Wọ́n ní mọ́mí òun ní pé kò ń béèrè pé owó tí mo fi ń ra nǹkan fáwọn pé ṣé kò ń ṣe pé ṣe ni mo ń jí. Wọ́n fi question mark sí pé ẹni tó ló ń ra pọ̀pọ̀ fún ẹ̀ ṣé kò ń ṣe pé ṣe ló ń jí owó ẹ̀. But now àwọn parents gan ni wọ́n tún ṣàgbọ́dọ̀ gbà.
Lọ́ọ́ pé ẹlòmíà máa inú àmà dùn pé ọmọ 18 years old ń ra mọ́tò fún kò ń ṣe pé yes we know that 18 years old people can make that money. Legally,
yes. It will be traceable.
But okay. You can't. They don't ask questions anymore. So when you have those sort of people graduating to bigger things in the society, I'll give you this example. I went to a private institution, and in my faculty at the time when we just got in, there was a particular faculty president who we also claimed was a spirikoko, and at some point, there was one emergency also, and they had to remove him. And so when we found out, they said they had stolen about 500,000. I'm talking about 2012.
And don't speak by fire.
2012, 2013.
Tongue speaking.
I was in a fellowship, but it was strong. They had stolen over 500,000. We asked, okay, so what did you use this 500? And we realized he bought a new phone for his girlfriend at the time. I think one BlackBerry Bold 10 or so. Published a book with stolen money. A motivational book. And then spent the rest, to do everything that he wanted to do. That sort of person will tomorrow go and contest to be something else, maybe chairman, and you think he will not steal. You say, so he will find a way to do it in a way in which, yes.
Yeah. So emphasis on desperation
to make money.
Emphasis on desperation to leave the state of poverty to the state of affluence. Because we are influenced by TikTokers,
indeed,
social media, celebrities.
You can even see now, bandits are now flaunting money on TikTok. They are showing off. We are making a lot of money. What message are they sending? A bandit is showing off money and saying, I can help you. I can help your life. By the time he sends you money, don't you think that inadvertently he's telling you, come and join us? And nobody is doing anything. But if the society is first, if the society is fine, people have what to eat at least, they're not going to venture. There'll be a limitation to venture into crime. But that's another. I'm just providing you another example. Ọlọ́pàá tí ó ti rówó tí ó fi rán ọmọ lọ school àbí tí ó ti fọmọ lóúnjẹ kò sí ẹ lè sọ pé ó máa gba 20 naira ní títì náà 50 naira àbí 100 naira ọ̀tẹ̀ ń gbà sí.
ẹ bá dẹ kọtẹ fún máa yọbọ.
Àbí because they are desperate to survive. That's the thing, and it's unfortunate that our own leaders have pretended to not give a damn about it. That's the truth. Because if they, Awolowo had several quotes about these things. He said, if you don't teach the child of the poor, how to be a reasonable, they're going to come back to haunt you. That's why, he gave free education. It wasn't as if it was easy. These days, we know, those who claim that they give free education, we know what they paid in. And you know that the education is not free. But I remember this morning I tweeted, I said, all the good things that my parents told me about Nigeria, I've not witnessed any part of it. I remember that my mom would tell me that they used to get free lunch in school at the time. At some point, I think for nursing students or medical students, they used to get stipends, for being in school. We've not witnessed any part of it. That will tell you that the system is changing, and it's changing in a terrible manner. So if we don't revert to that period, I hear people talk about changing constitution, having restructuring. But the truth is, those is just like, throwing a pin in an ocean. It's not going to have any effect. If you don't find a way to make people comfortable, provide food first. Let people be able to eat as much as they like. Let food be affordable. Let petrol not be our problem. Oh yes, we can say Mr. President is working on CNG. Well, if CNG works, let CNG be everywhere. If CNG is going to make food cheaper, well, we know it's not going to make food cheaper because now insecurity exists. If you deal with insecurity, make sure that we provide food to a lot of people. You can then fight crime.
Sam, the era of subsidy is gone. That statement,
yes,
is going to stay on with us for.
Indeed, it has its own chapter in history.
The era of subsidy is gone.
Yes.
Do you think that statement came too early?
Indeed, I think it came too early. But I have a couple of friends, who are big supporters of the president and say that if the president did not utter that statement, that some people would have already come in and lobby. But what's the difference? Because the truth is, we're only hearing that government is no longer paying subsidy. But the figures are not, showing. In the sense that, one, NNPC got a recent approval to use the last dividends from 2023 to offset a particular oil deal. The question is, what's that oil deal about? Is it not a subsidy payment? Why are they using it to offset a certain oil transaction instead of paying it to the federal government? Why? Why have they not paid? That's one. If you say, something does not exist, how come some of the documents that we've been able to see that have been leaked to the public still contain calculations on subsidy payments? You don't calculate what you don't intend to pay for now. That's the truth. Then the NLC president, Joe Ajero, said the agreement with the federal government or with the president was that, see, if you are not going to increase our salary to 250,000 naira, then you must make sure that fuel does not sell for above 1,000 naira at the filling stations. So it means that somebody must pay the leveraging cost. Also, landing cost as at today is roughly 1,400 naira. Who is paying the shortfall on it? So we are not being transparent enough. But I don't think that statement. I think that statement came too early. One, I think that the president lacked a real strategy to address it. which is why that statement came early. Because if the strategy was there and very clear and foolproof, then we could have said, oh, maybe that statement didn't come early.
Maybe you should have bought enough time to study the situation.
But Mr. President issued that statement, then waited for the consequences
before acting.
It wasn't even that he waited for consequences and then started acting. And that's why you see they are throwing everything. They are testing. Oh, they first tested with palliatives. They saw palliatives was not working. Then they threw in CNG. And now they are still testing with CNG. And then they are throwing a lot of things in to the system. They are saying, oh, don't worry, we'll give governors more money. Yes, governors are getting more money. But what has that, done for the people? So it came too early. And I think that it is the one thing that will continue to haunt the Tinubu presidency from now to 2027, and even if it extends beyond 2027, because as at now, the president is still looking for solutions. He has not found solutions. He is still searching. Because if he has found solutions, then we can say he should present it to the people. Let people be able to see that, oh, okay, we can suffer with this person just for 1 year.
1 year or 2 years.
But he's still testing. He's still searching for. So that's why people right now are losing hope. Unfortunately, I don't even think that the president has a clear picture of what's happening. That's another unfortunate scenario.
But he has people around him, technocrats. And
he has ambitious people.
Ambitious?
Yes, who equally want to either take over as president or be governors and need his favor. And they don't want to tell him the truth. That was why Fayemi, I remember that Fayemi came and said, see, tell Mr. President the truth. Told Ganduje, tell Mr. President the truth. And what was Ganduje's response? Ganduje, blasted him and made it seem as if, Mr. Man, what are you saying? Do you imply that we will lie to the president? Why didn't he take that statement in good faith and say, oh, yes, we will do so? Why are you promising Nigerians and telling them, oh, everything will be fine? When you should let Mr. President. In fact, go back and look at the president's speech, August 4, when he spoke during the protest broke out, and tell me if indeed you think that the president looks like he understands what exactly is happening to the people. We are hearing statements like those who want to take advantage of the protest. And we also may be àwọn òrón jẹjẹ.
Wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ bí ọ̀rọ̀ epo àwọn á di 200 á di 500. Ẹ fọkàn balẹ̀.
I remember that I was on the protest ground on day one, and people were saying, only gari lo ma mu lójoojúmọ́. We had people who said, school law, because of that's what we are talking about. So why was the president trying so hard till date to drive the narrative that it was a sponsored protest instead of listening? Because I say this. If everything is fine to a certain extent, then it's very difficult for anybody to get anybody to say, come and protest. In 1999, the election turnout, the turnout for campaigns was poor. Poor than what we see these days. I'm not talking about the election itself, but
the
campaigns. Why? Because people were busy trying to find ways to survive. But these days, people are so jobless, don't have anything to eat, that they would collect 1,000 naira to come to campaign ground, because 1,000 naira nothing much.
Anybody to buy any business and see to let keep up where you can keep at any time in Nigeria.
Barely. In fact, the level people now join political parties because they feel that Taba join or actually palliative. That's how bad the system has become. So that statement came too early. Mr. President, obviously his desire to be president supersedes every other thing that he should do as president. And I think that right now he is still trying to navigate the system and trying to do what he thinks is best. And I think that those he has appointed are not equally helping matters. There are people that are either so used to the political system in Nigeria and have been emboldened by it and feel that there's nothing that will happen.
Now, at the moment, kí ni o rò pé àwọn National Assembly kí náà lè ṣe?
National Assembly got part of the problem. I remember that I had a friend who wanted to contest, and we were doing a count after. I was telling you that to contest as a member of the House of Representatives, he spends roughly 185 million naira.
185 million.
Kò dẹ̀ wọlé o.
That's what let's Senate, abi.
Reps.
185 million.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Show what lucrative.
That's 3 local governments.
185 million.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni kò dẹ̀ wọ èyí tó tẹ̀lé calculate nìyẹn. Calculate àwọn tó sáré wá. Tọ́ni honourable ẹjọ́ ẹ fún mi ní èlé ẹ fún mi lélẹ̀.
Wọ́n dẹ̀ máa pè ní honourable láì sí wọlé o.
Definitely
àwọn èèyàn mad gan.
So gbogbo yẹn. Now we then said okay 185 million naira. Kò sẹ́ni tó máa débẹ̀ tí ò ní kọ́kọ́ rò wípé owó tí mo ná ìmọ̀ gbọ́dọ̀ pa padà. Ara ibi tí problem wà rẹ̀. Àwọn yẹn ò ní sọ òótọ́. They are not going to say the truth, because if you say the truth, there you are reducing your chances. You know that salary yín ó lè papọ̀. Owó constituency allowance ò lè papọ̀. Wọ́n lè fún Senator A kọ́ wò pé ranking senator kọ́ fún ní 800 million naira. Wọ́n ní àwọn kọ́ làwọn ń gbowó. It gets their unique wọ́n láwọn kọ́ náà ń gbowó. But a lot of them don't identify project. A lot of them ló mú contractor wá. Ìgbé kó wá gbà á. At least tó bá gba 800 million, á rí tiẹ̀ gbà ń bẹ̀. And all of that. Ibẹ̀. So they will always find their way. Mo dẹ̀ ti máa ń sọ wípé our National Assembly gan ló yẹ kí our Nigerians ká dì mú if we want solutions. Because if you recall, let's even try and recall 2-3 senators. Let's try and recall 2-3 members of the House of Reps, genuinely, without political interest, not the type Yaya Bello wanted to do to Dino Melaye, and see if others will not sit up and then start querying. For you to know how bad, how terrible the National Assembly is, they summoned Malami several times. They summoned Mr. President many times, and they didn't budge. If not because Keyamo, you know the number of times Keyamo ignored them. If not because Keyamo was coming back to be Minister of this thing, they would not apologize. That was when he knew that, oh, these people are powerful. Now imagine if the National Assembly does that to Mr. President and say, Mr. President, we will not pass your bill because we feel that it is not people-centric. And the president should test them, and they should stand their ground and see if the president is not going to shift grounds. He's going to shift grounds. But they won't talk because they are making money from the system. A lot of them would carry their portfolios, would carry their distance, and go and collect control. Look at Tunji Ojo, Olugbeminiyi, Minister of Interior, member of the House of Reps. He claimed he resigned from his company. But we knew from the records available that his wife was still running the show in that company. We knew that, his trusted aides were still running the show, and they were handling portfolios. He was chairman of the Niger Delta, vice chairman of Niger Delta Committee of the House of Reps, and his company was handling, the company he claimed he resigned from, was handling contracts on behalf of that ministry. So would you tell me that they got that contract free of charge? Or because he was there and he was able to pull some strings? So they're equally part of the problem. They are part of the problem, and people must. I know lawmakers. Interestingly, I used to run a project with I think the Ekiti Catholic Diocese had a particular arm, and we used to run this sort of checks on constituency projects of lawmakers in Ekiti State. And I remember that we did a check on a particular senator. I've forgotten his name now, former senator in Ekiti North. And at the end, we went to see the Oba of Ido, Oba Faboro. And he said, oh, that senator is useless. I remember I had to remove that part from the recording. I said, that is just a campaign. Big card phone. That is a senator who should be representing the people. A lot of people said, our call Akuku Dibo fun, Mobo Shewoli.
But I want tí wọ́n dìbò fún tí wọ́n rí demand tó ń gbélé wọn lórí ti pọ̀ jù náà.
torí pé poverty wà ní owó táwọn náà dẹ̀ ń gbà ó ti pọ̀ jù tí ẹ bá sọ pé sẹ́nitọ̀ ò gbà ju 500,000 lọ ìwọ̀nba lèèyàn tó máa lọ bá náà but nǹkan tá à ń gbọ́ ni pé sẹ́nitọ̀ ń gba 29 million. How then would you then convince somebody that does not have money not to go and meet that person? But if a senator earns 500,000 naira, by the time tí ẹ bá déwájú ilé ẹ̀ tẹ́ rí 100 people, you will go back home yourself because you know that there's no way somebody who earns 500,000 naira would earn, except you are telling him to steal. That's the truth. And that's why we keep saying that all these rich people don't have a business. In Kenya, I remember that in Kenya, the last election, I think it was not this one. I think 2017 or so, there was a young boy, jobless guy who was elected to the Congress there. How many people will go and make financial demands from him? Anybody who makes financial demands from such a person is obviously a thief and wants him to steal. But if you want him to work and be your voice, you're not going to ask for him. And by the way, if these people have things to do, if they have food to eat, they're not going to do so. That's why if you go to the US or you go to the UK, I remember that during the last election, I was speaking to one of my friends in the UK. I was saying, he said, we don't make financial demands from some of these our councillors and everything. He said, because some of us are richer than them. He said they only have some 1 or 2 benefits, maybe some shopping tax exemptions. They say there's nothing extraordinary. Only sometimes we help their lives, but they do the job for us. Because if we come around and then we say this road is not good, and because you did not help us amplify our voice and get attention on this road, you say they will find a way to do it. So Nigeria, there's a bloodline between what the job of lawmakers should be and what the current lawmakers are making it to seem. And the only place to start is first, reduce your money.
So politics is too lucrative in Nigeria.
Oh, too lucrative. We need to look at the amount of money that goes in. You saw some of these things yourself now. People now fight and kill themselves to be delegates of political parties. I remember there's a particular small party where they were giving them $200 at the convention when they wanted to pick somebody to be presidential candidate.
The last one.
Yes, a small party. It's maybe also APC at PDP. Those ones, when they collected their money, we saw some of them went to buy cars. Some of them went to buy, renovate their houses. But I'm saying a small party that you would not even think of some of them got to $200. And they had to go home and go and flex and do so. Can we completely demonetize the system in which Lagbaja would say that, see, he knows he's jobless, but he knows that he has the sense and the idea to fix what is wrong and do what? Proceed to do it. Back in the days, in the 70s, 80s, we had instances in which people would say, the family here, family to Danny, walk away. They have integrity. And they would send a message to that family and say, get us so and so from your family, let them come back and come and represent us. And they were not making financial demands from those people. All they just wanted is be our voice. So you would know that Nigerians are intelligent enough to know that, this is the job of this person. But because these people are getting so much money, and that's why I said, if we don't find a way to deal with this money problem for everything, we are not going anywhere as a nation.
All right, Sam. Right now, poverty.
Yeah.
Because pẹ̀lú iye tí wọ́n pe tepo ń lọ sìn at 1,000, price of fuel ó ti dàgbà gan, ó ti mature. Salary táwọn èèyàn ń gbà kò kúrò lójú kan. And tabalẹ̀ sọ pé kí salary kò lé price fuel àti price yet goods and services cost ẹ
Yes.
at the end of the day máa rí pé inflation rate
Even without touching the salary, inflation will always be high. Inflation, because petrol is the live wire. If you're moving you're moving food from the farm and bringing it to the township, you're going to use a car.
Yeah.
You're going to fuel that vehicle. The person is going to think about the cost of transportation. Tí sọ àwọn tó bá dá dúró lọ́nà tó máa ní $100 wá $1,000 and all of that. All of that yes. So as long as the price of petrol continues to be high, definitely every other thing would follow. That's why we're saying that the president lacked strategy. Look at Jonathan. I'm not a big fan of Jonathan too, but Jonathan seemed to have a better plan. Mass transit buses. I don't know if we bought into the CNG idea, but I know we had mass transit buses and a lot of things. Those were things Mr. President Tinubu should equally have done and said, see, okay, fine. Let's have CNG, 100 CNG buses or 1,000 CNG buses spread across. Look at what Zulum did in Bono. The moment they declared removal of subsidy, under 7 months, Zulum bought about 70 buses. The president said, this is for farmers. So this will transport farmers across the local government to the farms and bring them back. We will subsidize the payment of petrol for it. In such society, things will be cheaper. Things will definitely be cheaper than Lagos, because yes, you don't even have farms in Lagos that much. So you definitely have to fuel the vehicle that will come. Even petrol itself, the tankers that carry petrol, diesel, they rely on diesel, and that's why you see that the cost of fuel in Lagos is cheaper. In Ibadan, it's a little bit higher. In Abuja, it is higher, because that's the way the system is. So, as long as there is a UN report that says that about 80 million people by 2030 in Nigeria will not have food to eat. That yes, they are not going to have food to eat, and they would be in extreme poverty. So just like you said, yes, TV anything. But we can only, yes, we can beg God, but we also have a responsibility to decide what we want to do now and say, Mr. President, can you come and let us find a way to redefine this country and find a way in which we can find solutions to all these things. First and foremost, for me, I say, National Assembly, cut your salaries. All these ministers you have, 47 ministers. 47 ministers have 5 special assistants that collect huge amounts of money. Can we just put an end to all these things? Can we run a system whereby the president is not all so powerful, in which he can deal with matters of bilateral interest, international relations, and security issues? Same with the governors. Can we run a system like a parliamentary system of government in which the lawmakers, from amongst them too, we can pick those who would supervise the ministries, and then make sure that we re-engineer the civil service in a way that will work, in which the civil servants will be ready to. Because how do we justify that you have a ministry of maybe foreign affairs, and then you have permanent secretaries there, but the minister is bringing in technical assistants, special assistants, and a lot of other people to come and do the job that some people are already there and paid to do? That's equally a problem. So these are things that we must find a way to sort out. I don't think that, I think if we do that, or if we start from one place, then we can gradually get back to maybe some bits of those glory days. That's what I think.
So, what's the solution to this impending doom? Because the poverty about the level come, the rate of crime
Yes.
and lost okay. Then we have a cause to be scared.
Already the rate of crime is high.
Umawa higher.
And I think that but if crime gets higher, there will be a point where there will be nobody to, except maybe they will be engaging in rituals.
And we have that already.
But I'm saying that except you get a point where everybody will not be killing themselves for rituals. If you want to kidnap for ransom, people no longer have money for ransom now. That's the reality. There are people, I remember there was one husband that was telling me, like, you see, most of us say, Ramari Kirio, Torí tó bá jẹ́ ẹgbẹ́ mi ò ní, tó bá gbọ̀n mi yẹ́bẹ́yẹ́bẹ́ mi ò ní ju 200,000. 200,000 because there's no money. Unfortunately, okay, but I would not say unfortunately, but eventually the repercussion would be on the ruling class. Don't forget that last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, there was an attempt to kidnap a commissioner in Anambra State. Yeah, he was kidnapped. Yes, he was kidnapped, but they killed his aide and eventually was released. Within that same week, the chairman of a particular local government in Kogi State was also kidnapped, but miraculously escaped. A former commissioner and former member of the House of Representatives in Delta State was equally kidnapped in our church. It means that gradually they will turn on the ruling class. If they're not careful, they will kidnap Mr. President at some point. I think it was, I can't remember, was it Thailand? I'm not sure it was Thailand or Indonesia. No, I can't remember. But one of these Shia countries, Asian countries, where everybody, at some point just gathered one day and they started running towards the presidential palace and said, "You, the president, we are going to deal with you. You," and the president had to flee, resigned and fled to another country. We are likely going to see something like that, because there will be a point where those engaged in crime will not get any profit of it, and so they are going to have to turn on somebody, and then at that point we may then have to do a reset or have more criminals.
Now, has the president been able to turn anything around in the area of security? Can Tinubu to share security?
Mi ò lè sọ pàtó.
Kò wá evident àbí?
Kò wá evident o. Torí wọ́n sì jẹ́ àríyàn gbé. I think there was a record I was seeing where they said about 22,000 people not jí gbé under Tinubu in 1 year. And the numbers can rise. Nígbà tí mo rántí pé nígbà tí ó dojú ẹ̀ gbà kan tí Akérédolú ṣòro àlàyé, Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn dé. Nígbà tí Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn dé, ó fẹ́ jọ pé ó dínkù díẹ̀ in some states. But kò sẹ́nibọ̀dì tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn mọ́. It's almost as if Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn is now non-existent.
Maybe Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn has gone with Akérédolú.
Possible. In fact, bẹ́ẹ̀ gẹ́lẹ́ ló ṣe rí. Because, wọ́n sì ṣiṣẹ́ díẹ̀ lóńdó. But we've not seen them being exceptional. But ṣe rí nígbà tó kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀, ó fẹ́ jọ pé zeal yẹn ti kú pẹ̀lú Akérédolú. Bí àwọn òrówó láti fi ṣiṣẹ́. This bí a kò sí any special encouragement, but the truth is àwọn sì jẹ́ àwọn èèyàn gbé, wọ́n sì pa àwọn èèyàn ní Èkìtì state I think just yesterday mo gbọ́ pé wọ́n pa woman kan, wọ́n kidnap ìyá kan àti ọmọ, wọ́n sọ ransom, but wọ́n pa ọmọ, wọ́n release ìyá. All these things kò ṣe ibẹ̀ nìkan ní story yẹn almost on a daily basis la ṣe ń gbọ́ story yẹn. In Bedway, people can still not go back to their farms, which is one of the reasons why the president said, I've set up livestock ministry, so that we can find a way to address some of these issues. But the bigger question for me sabotage wa. Our generals, our military, in fact, kò sí nǹkan kan tó any crime tó lè ṣẹlẹ̀ Nigeria tẹ́ ẹ̀ ní rí ọwọ́ security official in there. Look at the major robberies in this country that have been discovered. You would realize that when you get the culprits, they are often supported by somebody in the police or any part of the military. Same thing too with this. So any crime that has not been solved It is because those involved are people who call the shots or a member of those security forces. And I think that is still the same thing. But there might be a question called most of the high profile people. Okay, how would you advise him to root out the sabotage? Because the truth is this. So it's the question of Talu and Ben Fekiluto under this president, especially in the area of security. Is it the service chiefs? Is it those who work under the service chiefs? I'm very sure even the president does not know. Or maybe there are people that are too powerful. American film. That by find out one person within the government focus. Maybe the same thing to shell at the moment.
And at the moment, it seems I need a lot of non-state actors. They come to manager, they tell.
Oh yes, everybody calm down. But too much things are still happening. I know people very well that can't go to their farms anymore because they are scared. So that would tell you that we still have issues with security. Because if they feel safe, they will go to their farms.
I want to all abroad.
Yes.
One man sọ̀rọ̀ kan pé àjò dàbí ilé pé ilé
lábọ̀ bí wọ́n dáńsì kan wálé.
Now nígbà tí èèyàn ṣiṣẹ́ lọ́run tó dẹ̀ wò pé ọjọ́ kan máa wá sílé wá ń gbọ́ fìrìfìrì pé ẹnìkan ó kówó lọlé wọn pa ẹnìkan ó lóun fẹ́ lọ sí oko kan nílé ó máa dáko okòrókó lọ yàtọ̀ sí àwọn màálù gan tí tó tún jẹ oko ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ kàn gbé sájò ni. ṣé wọn ò fẹ́ kàn.
No, God don share the air already. There are people who are not going to come back. I remember that mo lọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ kan tí mo bá sọ ló sọ fún mi pé ó ní Sam I don't think I want to only because number one ó ní àwọn tí mo tiẹ̀ ní kọ́kọ́ bá mi set up business àtúgbàdà sórí ọ̀rẹ́ pé àwọn Nigerians to a certain extent are greedy bí àwọn tá a tiẹ̀ ní kọ́ bá a ṣe business ó ní ààrẹ jẹ́ àròmìnira gbogbo business tá a ní kọ́ bá a ṣe ó ní so tí n bá padà kí ni essence pé wọ́n àbí kí ni assurance pé wọ́n tiẹ̀ ní jí mi gbé fúnra so ó ní so I've decided not to come back o ó ní I want my children to stay abroad mo ní mo lẹ́gbọ̀n ó ní màá máa sọ fún wọn pé Ọ̀yọ́ náà ti wá but that's it if they now decide in the future that they want to come back and see things for themselves only fine only but I'm not taking them back only because Sam find your way and make sure that you get out. So it's obvious that people will no longer come home as before. Unfortunately, they will always play second-class citizens over there because the truth is Ajo Dabile go see in places like that they will not accord you the same respect as they will accord those who are citizens by birth or those who they feel are or aborigines.
Maybe until the second generation or the third generation.
Yes, or third generation. Yeah. But even at that, we still see some elements of racism between those who are white, black in skin tone. So it would always be there. I don't think that we are at a stage where we can say, there's no racism at all. It's still there. So the only difference is that it's not as obvious or as visible as it was previously, but it is still there. We are having conversations. Campaigns are going on in some places, and the conversation is about migration. Some countries are deliberately now trying to block people who even want to migrate legally, meaning that some even see them as a problem. I remember that during the trip to South Africa, the first thing the Uber driver said was, "You're Nigerian?" I said, "Yes." So I hope you're not here to do drugs. Or I said, "Why? What?" He said, "That's what majority of the people do." Yeah. And then I remember that I also met somebody from Congo who worked. And I said, "Are you a citizen?" He said, "No, they don't do such things." Yeah. If you are not South African, you are not South African, regardless of whatever country. So you always
can't take on the citizenship of that country.
No, you can't.
South Africa.
You can't. I've been here for the past 15 years. They don't allow such things. So all those things that obviously not You know, you always be treated as second-class citizens in those places. So even if you become second or third, fourth generation, it will take some bit of time before you get to that level where we can say, okay, I'm so comfortable, yeah. And what it also means that we're beginning to lose our culture, our tradition. If you are not careful, this will be a forgotten place. Another thing too I tell people is, if you leave everybody and then you travel abroad, you forget that you have family here. What will become the fate of the family here? It means that they will continue to rot in that mess, and you've left them. If you check some of the people in government today, some of them studied abroad. But what difference too have they also been able to make? So it's still a general headache.
So it's not true that a time will come that people that traveled abroad,
yes,
maybe through Japa or whatever,
yes,
they are coming back to fight for this land.
Fight for. Gbajabiamila, who is chief of staff, studied abroad and practiced abroad before he came to Nigeria. Even Mr. President claims to have studied outside of Nigeria. Does it look like he's fighting for the country? No, let's ask ourselves the question. We see a lot of our politicians these days now are now sending their children abroad. A lot of them come back and work, in government agencies. Do they look like they are fighting? No, they are not. They are not. So I think everybody's just here to fleece the nation and move on.
Okay, so I assume that you feel that this country has gone bad beyond repair.
Oh yes, it has. Well, I think that there's this little.
It's beyond redemption.
Very, very little, because I don't want a case in which somebody watches this podcast and then they feel, all hope is lost, so let us make it so bad. I think that there's a little bit of hope. But I was reading Chinua Achebe's The Trouble with Nigeria, written in 1977, I think. And the description was the same problem that we're experiencing, even worse, they're experiencing today. Wale Ademogo was part of those who was roped into the first, was part of those involved in the first coup. In his book, Why We Struck, if you read the first 2 pages and the 4 forwards, you would realize that the description of the problem with Nigeria at the time is almost the same. Ethnic rivalries and laws, same as we have today. The problem, and I like to think that they expressed hope
at that time too.
At that time. So if I say that, there's a bit of hope, is because let's just leave some room. But I would not be surprised if in another 50 years, those people in the next 50 years are saying, why do we have the problem they had in 2010, 2024 there? But that's not to say that we can't, because the truth is, if we are united as a people, that's how powerful we can be. There's the part of the scripture that talks about building the Tower of Babel and said, because the people were united, the work moved on speedily. They were building the tower and wanted to reach to heaven so they could speak with God. But then the moment they became confused and started speaking in different tongues, that work stopped, and that was the end. So if we can ever get to the point where Yoruba is not looking at Igbo as the enemy, where Igbo does not see Hausa as the problem, and then we can all come together and say, see, we must find a way to provide solutions for ourselves. If that time comes, yes, why not?
But some people are clamoring for Yoruba Nation, Biafra, and Arewa.
Who says that we will not have the same problem? If we have Yoruba Nation, those from Ogun State will tell you that, see, Lagos, we are the natural rulers of the South.
Lagos and Ogun is too far. Let's say Ijebu and Egba. They will tell you that, Ijesha, Ife.
Thank you. Or Ondo Ekiti.
We'll
tell you that, no, we feel you are oppressing us. Let's what would even happen? You say you want to have Yoruba Nation. What will happen to the Yoruba-speaking people of Kwara and the Yoruba-speaking people of Kogi? Would they be part of the Yoruba Nation? And
So
that's another
you're
question.
likely to just recycle another.
It's going to be the same.
another
Will it change the leaders? It's not going to change. We're just going to have the same problems in different circles. So I don't think that division is a problem. You can say, oh, you want to decentralize, the governance system a bit and say so that you give room for more minority people to be involved. But if that doesn't happen, no, Yoruba nation, what's Yoruba nation? If, okay, you are telling me that if Tinubu was president of Yoruba nation, things will be different. Things will obviously not be different. Things will not be different. So that's I don't think that those who clamor for Yoruba nation have a deep philosophical idea of what the solution should be.
Is local government autonomy one of the steps towards having a decentralized system of government?
Oh, maybe. It should be a step, really. But the way it runs in Nigeria has made the local government system a tier of government in which they are simply just an handbag. It now depends on who is carrying them. If they are allowed to function and match into the system as they should, yes, it may work. Because I often say this too. There is every tendency that I would see the councillor in my district living very close to me, as maybe my neighbor. I can tell him, Oga councillor, ṣe dáadáa, even though I joke, mọ nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ ṣe at all. Ọ̀nà tó yẹ kẹ́ bá wa mójútó, bá wa mójútó. And he would pick up and say, oh, fine. He's not going to complain to me. I know the number of local government chairmen that I've seen. And they'll say, ẹ̀yin náà mọ̀ pé a kò gba location. So, kò sí owó lẹ́tà fi ṣiṣẹ́. But if they're allowed to function as they should function, yes, it will be easier for us to hold them responsible. But I don't think, you can see, there's a Supreme Court ruling. Now the federal government is now setting up a special, that's to tell you that we're even a lawless country. We are setting up a special committee to review the judgment and determine implementation. Something that we should allow it to work straight away. Let them get their allocation. Yes, but the governors are equally scared. If we allow local governments to function as they should, there will be very little money for us to spend. There will be very little control, because a local government chairman may look at a governor and say, Jogosi district, district, Masumami. And a lot of them do not want that to happen. So, yes, but if the local governments are allowed to work as they should, it may be a form towards getting the type of government. That is if they don't bastardize it.
Now, but the money will show Omamawalati, okay, see local government straight. Now, what should Mama pass through state government?
Oh, so Tabab law, the current constitution, it will come from the state. Because the current, the federative structure does not even recognize local governments. That's an argument a lot of people don't want to accept. But the truth is, the federative system we operate sees the federal government and the state government. The state government can then do as they will with the local governments. But because we desperately know that, if we continue to live in the hand of state government, then we will not get any solutions. That's why we feel that, it should come through the states, and states should be allowed to. What the federal government is trying to do is to twist and say, see, states, we want to take control from you and let this money go directly to the local government. But if we and that will require an amendment. Yes, the Supreme Court has now made a pronouncement. This should then be taken and seen as the law. And that's why they've set up a committee to say, let us look at it. Should we continue to pay that money straight? Because don't also forget, we now have LCDAs, which is also not recognized in the Constitution. And I have sampled opinion. There are people now who are saying that they like the LCDA structure. They prefer the LCDA structure to the local government structure, because they feel that local government structure is even too far for them to go to local government office. Local government is very far, but the LCDA structure is closer to them.
Who started the LCDA structure?
Oh, yes. We give him credit for that. And that's why today, when we criticize how the local government system operates, I say Tinubu should get credit for what is happening in Lagos. today, the local government system in Lagos is very active. Throughout this period of, they've been the one doing discount markets. Sometimes, some of the local government chairmen in Lagos have commissioned more roads than some governors. Because yes, I was surprised the day I was watching the budget presentation of a particular local council development, a CDA, an LCDA, and they were presenting a budget of 5.1 billion naira, which is the entire budget of a particular local government. So you see that yes, they are working. They are allowed to take their taxes, their rates, markets, rents, and all of that. So yes, they are allowed to work, but that they are not working in the same way in so many other states across the country. So that's why you have to find a way around it. We need to cut all this bureaucracy. Let the Supreme Court pronouncement become automatic. Let it be implemented. Let the local governments, that if the governors are law-abiding people, they should allow that system to work, and then work hand in hand with the local government to say, where can we provide support for you? And I must say, before we, I must say that our governors are very lazy, extremely lazy people, mentally lazy people. They are very, they are people who are very lucky. Very lucky, because every bit of blame that we've raised today has been against the president. But the governor is there. The governor collects allocation on a monthly basis. What is he using his allocation for? A lot of them collect security votes. Because yes, you will come and say, oh, we are not the chief security officers. But you are collecting money on a monthly basis. What are you using that money for? These are questions we should be asking too. And they should give us answers as well. But they are not giving us. But they are very lucky because, everybody, because once again, the president is powerful. And because of that sort of power that he has, we must place the blame at his feet, most of the time.
So who is to be blamed? The president, the governors?
All of them will share blames. In fact, I would say under the current system, the APC has the highest number of governors, so, and they also have the president. So if the president, is not doing well enough, the governors should find a way to tell him. And then the president should find a way to tell governors to do better. So all of them share the blames.
2014, Goodluck Jonathan was president.
Yes.
But APC gave the Jonathan government, the PDP government at that time, serious opposition fire.
Yes.
Back to back. But it seems the PDP is not giving the APC government anything, because it's like everything is just, well, maybe everybody doesn't even have a solution to all the problems we have on ground at the moment. Then the second leg of that question is, Tinubu at that time was a major force against the removal of subsidy at that time.
Yes.
But now, just about 9 years after,
Yeah.
he said the era of subsidy is gone.
So
Did he just wake up?
So Tinubu did not. I remember reading the article, the open letter I wrote at the time, and a broken contract or something. I can't remember the exact title. I don't think he meant that subsidy was wrong at the time. I think what he implied was that the timing was wrong. It's so the question is a question of, so the time you have also chosen to remove subsidies, is this the right time? And we all know the answer to that. So that answers that particular question. On the question of opposition, you have to understand that there was a desperate goal on the part of APC, a combination of roughly 6 parties. I said, see, no, PDP needs to go. Jonathan needs to go. Now, we had NPDP, you had CPC, you had AD, you had a lot of people say, our goal is we want to unseat Jonathan. And so it was easier for them to do. They had a lot of money at the time. You had a lot of PDP governors who were not happy with Jonathan too at the time. You had Lai Mohammed, who knows the job pretty well. He's a propagandist. He's a PR guy. So he knew where to fire, how to fire, and make sure that this guy does not rest. But right now, the first question is, PDP, who is in PDP? who is a member of PDP. What is the desire of PDP? Is the desire of PDP to unseat Tinubu and the APC, or to serve the interest of the Nigerian people? But we know a house that is not in order, or a house that is set against itself, cannot prosper. And that is the case of PDP now.
So where is Atiku?
I think that Atiku had the chance to play. I want to take a moment.
You want to weigh that statement very well. Right?
Because I think I was going to say that I think he had a chance to play the role of a statesman, but I want to say that would we have to wait until 2027 to decide if he would play that role. But I think that Atiku was the only one who stood a chance to beat Tinubu. Some people may disagree, but I would say that that's reality. He was the only one who stood a chance, not Peter Obi. I can say this anywhere, that Peter Obi had momentum, but that momentum was fueled by a lot of things. And we can see what is happening. Yes, he has some momentum, appeals to younger, but I think he would have done better if he had, struck a deal to be Atiku's running mate. Yes, that deal may not have been on the table because Atiku had a deal with Ifeanyi Okowa. So maybe Obi should have, settled for secretary to the government of the federation. If he had done and campaigned vigorously and taken his own, look at the votes now: 6 million, 6 million, 5 million, 6 million. Their votes combined. They would have beaten Tinubu hands down there. So Atiku had a good chance, but I think Atiku underestimated Tinubu. One, also underestimated Peter Obi, and felt I just need the votes from the north. Unfortunately, if he had done his calculation right, he would have seen that there would have been a problem, because we knew the middle belt was never going to vote for. We would have gone solely to Tinubu. We knew that Plateau was most likely going to go, because this election was more or less like a reenactment of what we saw during Awolowo, Shagari, and Nnamdi Azikiwe. The same thing. We knew Taraba, Plateau most likely go to Peter Obi. So he should have found a way to ensure that those votes come to you. Look at the kind of losses that the PDP suffered in the South, and the Southeast. You will know that, this wasn't well thought out. In this case. Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, had made it clear that, see, Peter, I don't think you would win. And a lot of people came and they were saying, but he was saying the truth. Did Peter Obi win? He came third. He was lucky to, get the kind of figures that he got. And I will tell you that if we go into 2027 again, and we have those same figures, we are going to have the same election. Because, number one, Labour is now in crisis. Labour Party is now in crisis. PDP is still in crisis. So unless they get their house in order. And, come together and say we want to unseat, they are not going. And Tinubu government is a strategist. He may not understand business, the business of governance, as well as he understands the business of politics. But he will play the game.
Are you implying that he doesn't even understand the business of governance?
Well,
that was what you just said.
I said he understands the business of politics.
Are you saying he has no business with governance?
See, every general has his area of expertise. Yeah, we agree, and I think that everybody would agree that Tinubu's area of expertise is politicking. Governance, let's wait before we judge him.
All right, before I ask you the last question, let me just add this. How well is Senator Demola Adeleke doing with Osun State?
Okay, so I don't I'm not in Osun State, but I seem to ask some of my folks what's happening, because the guy can dance. In fact, I'm almost tempted at this point to say that he dances better than he but is Demola Adeleke really in charge of Osun State? That's a question I've been begging for answers.
There are insinuations that a particular Mrs. Sonny is the one in charge. People from Osun always
that is why I asked that, is he the one really in charge? Because I've equally had such insinuations. They say, if you want an appointment or anything, go and meet her. But don't worry.
You've heard about
just go and
Adeleke
just go and meet her. Once you meet auntie or mama, don't worry, it's settled. So there's no way you would hear that and not ask yourself.
And some mothers are saying that Daily Momodu has some high stakes there in Osun too.
I don't know much about the Daily Momodu part, but you see, the most important thing is if the people of Osun State are fine with Governor Demola, and say, oh, they like the way he dances a lot, they like the roads he has been constructing, they like the fact that he's been paying, and now he has said he will pay 70, oh, check, but also 70,000. Have you fair was second time? So, if they decide that they like, oh, yes, let them, but can you do better? Oh, yes, he can. He can do better.
How well will State do paying 70,000 naira?
I think
will Sheyi Makinde pay 70,000 naira?
No, I don't know if Sheyi will pay 70,000 naira. Sheyi, that I hope you know that health workers recently went on strike, for roughly 2-3 weeks before Sheyi answered them. That was the same governor that during first time, there was no worker that could go on strike for more than a week. He will run and say, don't worry, I'll settle what you want. I hope you know that Sheyi, in a very long time, has not employed new workers in Oyo State. Yes, I was one of the few people that said, oh, Sheyi is sound. I think he can govern Oyo State too. I was one of you. I said, yes, I know I'm a journalist. But, we would say, oh, we've looked at this person's proposal and say, okay, this person looks a little bit more reasonable and acceptable. And I said, oh, I think, but the truth is, we were seeing what is happening. I know, on good account, that in some ministries and agencies and parastatals in Oyo State, they are highly short-staffed. So as Makinde not found a way to employ more people there. That's one. Now, what is the assurance that if he employs more people, he will be able to pay 70,000 naira? And about 70,000 naira, I say it, not all states should pay. Not all states should pay. Some states, if they attempt it,
you go bankrupt.
A state like Borno cannot attempt it. Borno is not paying 30,000 naira. Up till today, you can go and verify. There are workers in Borno State that collect 13,000 naira. Yes, 13,000 naira. Teachers, 13,000, 15,000 naira. No, to be 30,000 naira. So why would such states pay 70,000 naira? I think it's and that's why I said that the NLC, the organized labor, they need to look beyond just increasing, because I'm not a government worker. 70,000 naira is not going to have any consequential impact on my salary or on the money I make, except those who employ me decide to be gracious in that respect. But you know that the moment they start paying it, the cost of things will go up in the market. So those things cannot be worked out. But we know states that can pay. Lagos does not have a choice. It has to pay 70,000 or even more. But there are states, especially in the north, Taraba, even though Taraba is sounding like Taraba, down south here, Ekiti, must not try it. Borno, forget. Yobe, Niger. Well, Niger, the new governor in Niger looks like he wants to appeal to a lot of people, Osman Bago, so maybe he may decide to. But there are states that must not try. If they try it, they will go bankrupt. That's the reality. If they pay it one time, they may not pay the next time. Let me, in fact, tell one story that I think it's even interesting that this is not coming very close to the election. If this was coming very close to the election, we may see instances like Edo State. Yes, Edo State, for instance, says they will pay 70,000 naira minimum wage. But I told one of my friends, I said, don't be surprised though, because everybody is shouting out that Edo does not have the capacity to pay, but they said they will pay. I then told him the story of a particular governor, from Oyo State. God rest his soul. I said he increased the salary of a set of workers. That was 3 months to the election. And then when he contested that election and lost, he said, gentlemen, find a way to deduct to increase deduct it instantly. and they found a way to deduct. So I said, if in Edo State they start paying you 70,000 naira today, make sure that you take that increase and save it somewhere, so that if the person who promised loses just in case, I'm not implying they will
So
lose.
I won't have a repeat of
They won't say
those
the
things.
dog, and then you will now feel helpless. Just save it somewhere. Just save it somewhere.
Will Dapo Abiodun pay? Because I've always heard complaints about Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State.
Governor Dapo Abiodun. I still talked about Governor Dapo Abiodun.
But Ogun State has,
interestingly, is the
Ogun State
governor of
has-
my state.
has money.
Interestingly, is the governor of my state, but so far they say he's the worst performing. I don't know if he's the
Who
worst
said
performing.
that? Who said that?
The people in
What's the criteria?
the people we call at home. I say governor I say that governor Iwo. I say governor Iwo. But I think 2 weeks ago there was a report on roads, and somebody said, "Oh, the governor said, please, I'm sorry, I'm ashamed of all these developments. I'll find a way." And they said almost immediately that same day, some contractors got on some roads and started fixing those roads. So that is that. I don't know if he will pay 70,000 naira, but is Ogun State capable of paying? I think yes. I think Ogun State has been unlucky, in terms of governance. We are rich. Lagos is rich. We should be exploiting our closeness to Lagos to drive up IGR, to improve the living standards of the people. But maybe the governors are not thinking in that line, or they're just lazy. Like I said earlier, a lot of them are lazy.
Or maybe it's bonus for them.
It's not bonus, because if it's bonus, then you should do the work in which you can drive up IGR. If you drive up IGR, you have more money to spend, and then you can have more money to let go and run on projects, and do so many. But they don't want to do it. They just like the idea of governor, and they are traveling up and down on a daily basis. I will tell you, there have been people who, by virtue of being governors, have touched more countries in the world than they ever dreamt of in their entire life, and that's what we are seeing.
And are those working visits or just a leisure?
Oh yes, they will claim working visits. When one particular former governor, went to one airport and stood behind one decorated one podium and did as if it was delivering. We thought it was a working visit until we got the other angle and said, yes sir, so you will know that there are certain things that you can't even tell. There was one particular visit to UAE where they said they went for a climate conference. They had I think that was the time where we had over 1,400 people in delegation. And there were certain celebrities and influencers, some of them female, high-class female influencers, that went on that trip to the UAE at the time. And we said, these ones too meant to go on working visits with the governors. And, but
they are working.
Well, believe it to
and
God.
The state is working.
But I think, particularly for Ogun State, I think that in terms of development, we need more. I remember that I was there when I took a trip to the Ijebu-Ode axis when Amosun was governor, and I saw some bit of work. Yes, we've seen one or two pieces of new roads, since Dakpo came, but it's not enough. It can do better. It can, yes, it may be his second time, but I don't know what runs in the minds of people. Maybe they feel that, I will tell you a secret. There are some people who put in a lot of money into projects. People feel like, this person project now that if in Jali. Dubai issue contract for Julius Berger. We've also some people say, Governor Kaloma issue. You give one project to one company. The company will want to find a way to get your assurance, quote and unquote, so that you give them another contract. So that way, that's how these people run this thing. But there are those who are so greedy to the extent that they don't want to run the project, just want to pack everything. And that's why you will see instances in which they will say on entertainment they are spending as much as 700 million. For Christ's sake, why are you spending 700 million? In countries outside, we recently spent 15 billion trying to build vice president's lodge. The former vice president's lodge, Aguda House, is in a fine shape.
So
Not bad.
why do we need another?
Why do we need
VP lodge?
when that 15 billion can be used to build a solar city where we can generate power from for a whole state? So our people is greed. To be honest, it's greed. We have kids that we have children that it is the joy of every parent that, oh yes, this child would make life soft for them. Why do you have to steal on behalf of those children? Why? So our governors need to step up, and I think people too must make demands, fresh demands. As we're moving into 2027, I want to see an instance. I don't know if I'm still going to be a journalist. Well, a journalist is always a journalist, but I don't know if I'm going to be a practicing one. They know by then. But I want to see instances where we're asking real questions. I'm saying, Mr. President says, oh, I'm going to reduce, put an end to scarcity. Mr. President, come sit down with us and tell us how. It's depressing when you send invitation or invites to public office holders and they don't want to
turn
come.
you down.
Yes.
And
And you say, if you try this outside of the country, we're going to sue you. You have instances in which a presidential candidate cannot answer questions on governance, and you say, no worry, you come. Look at the one with El Rufai, where El Rufai even had a blueprint of what he wanted to do with power, and today is not even very close to the federal government, talk less of being minister. But if it was the president we asked that question, we will hold the president responsible, on that basis. Not El Rufai, because right now El Rufai's word is worthless at this point. So, we must ask real questions. We must decipher the real answers. We must get the answers. And then we must be able to say, okay, this is fine. We are fine with this. Or insist that this is what we want.
All right, Sam, finally, before I let you go, what was freedom of speech like under President Buhari? What is it looking like at the moment under President Tinubu? You are a journalist.
That's a dicey question, because I think that there's really no difference. In fact, I only fear that it's becoming worse, because you can hear the latest arrest. There's one Isaac Bristol. There's Undeyi has gone into hiding. Segun Olatunji resigned and had to tender. I was abducted. Daniel Ojukwu himself was, picked up, and and everybody now, I speak to some of my colleagues and I say, no, it was investigative journalists. No, we are storytellers now, and it's depressing, because I often say that the way a country treats journalists will tell you if they have integrity, honor, if they are worthy of any form of trust. If somebody has said something that you think is false, you take that person to the court. You don't harass that person with the police or tell them to, abduct that person, and his family will not know where they are. And I think that's what we are seeing under Tinubu. I think it is so brazen under Tinubu that at this point everybody is living in fear. In fact, it feels like we are almost back to the era of the military under Tinubu. Yeah, Buhari had his own times, but I think it wasn't so bad and it wasn't immediate as we've seen under Tinubu. I can count up to 11, 12 journalists who have been picked up on duty. Either Tinubu knows, or maybe non-state actors or high political state actors are involved. I don't know. But we have people, who have been picked up for several reasons under this administration, and it is not good for journalists. It's not good, because we are putting our lives at risk. That's the reality. To put out stories, and then let me give a very clear case. That of Fisai Oshombo is a case I refer to most of the time. Somebody did a lot of work. I was able to say, indict 1, 2, 3 persons, in the smuggling ring that were doing undue business in Nigeria, and had high-level contacts, almost influential enough to influence the appointment of a customs controller general either true or not true. They did not, next thing, they didn't pick up the person that was indicted. They started chasing him about with security officers, putting him on a watch list until they attended to them recently. Or the case of somebody who published a report and then they said, oh, he flouted the Cybercrime Act, and then they abducted him. Till date, they've not been able to put out a counter story to say that, oh, what this person said is wrong or is a lie. This is the truth. Yeah. So it means that there is something to hide. It means that there is something to hide. And so it's unfortunate that in this instance we have journalists who are also part of the Tinubu administration that are not saying anything, or have decided to turn a blind eye, or would even defend some of these actions. It is wrong, it is terrible, and I think that it is also bad for the future of journalism. But like I say again, we've seen these moments before. Maybe not us, but those who were there before us. And so we'll always find a way to, even though it's also a bit unfortunate that now there's no distinction between journalism and PR. You find people who get very close to government because they feel, oh, that's how, because the system itself does not pay you, as well as, a lot of people. That's, again, back to the money matters. But I think that government should show more respect to journalists, and they should be, accountable. We should be accountable. Let the law continue to be upheld, as the main source of this thing for everybody. So if you have a case, if there's a report that is wrong, don't come and threaten us with this thing. Let us go to the court. When we get to the court, let the court decide if one is wrong or not. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Sam Olugbeminiyi is the head of news and Assistant General Manager at Adamimogo FM, Lagos, of which I am the General Manager. But this is, you're not putting the PPIB, private practice. All right, so that's troubleshoots for this week. Thank you so much. We'll be back.